Hey guys, Kevin here for Awkward, Season 5, Episode 10, Reality Does Not Bite. And I stand corrected, guys, okay? This was not the mid-season finale. I thought that they were only going to do 10 episodes, but it turns out they're doing 12, and the finale's next week, which is really good, because they're combining 2 episodes into one, which I like. I like that they are making it an hour, because Awkward's strongest episodes for things like that's an episode that needs to be an hour. However, this was the conclusion to last week's cliffhanger, and while I don't think this episode was as strong as last week's episode, I did think overall this was a good episode. My only complaint is that I felt it was very predictable. Everything that happened in this episode, I expected to happen. It was kind of formulaic, and there were some things I really loved this episode, definitely. There were some things I really loved. It was not my favorite of this season. I did think last week's, like I said, was stronger, but I overall really did like it. Let's just get into this episode. I'd like to say there was a lot that happened because there was, but honestly, not too much happened. There really wasn't too much happening except for one big event. And let's just get into it. So Jenna sees Tamara and Adam happy dancing together, and she's happy for them. But she plans on going back home because she doesn't have a date. She doesn't want to go without one, and she then slips on what looks like vodka from Gloria, who she first thinks her water has broken, but because Gloria is pregnant. And it looks like she's drinking, but she does say that it's Fred's. And I thought it was kind of cool that they got Fred Wu back just for this scene. I was thinking maybe we'd see Ming again, but I'm crossing my fingers, guys. I don't know if this will happen, but I am crossing my fingers that Ming makes a cameo next week. I mean, it's graduation. She has to come back for Jen and Tamara, who are best friends. She has to come back next week, okay? I will be so happy if they have a cameo for Ming next week. I don't know if it's happening, but just Fred being there and actually remembering Fred Wu, a character we haven't heard of for a very long time since season 3. That's awesome. I love that. I thought that was great that they did that. Just for that little thing. If they bring Ming back just for one scene, just very quickly, have her be like, congratulations, guys, and then tell us quickly about the Asian Mafia, I'll be fine with that. I'll be fine if they did that. I think that'd be very funny and would go really well with their characters. Just, I want something with Ming next week, okay? Just having Fred Wu back, I'd be very happy if Ming came back. I get that, Jessica, whatever her name, DeLonge, I think her name is, she doesn't want to come back, but just for this one scene, especially knowing that it possibly is the final season, and it's the last regular season of Awkward, because of course we know after the first half that it's going to be a completely different show. I think it'd be good for her to come back. So they tell her she looks pretty and is literally on fire because a candle falls on her. Gloria puts out the fire as they take a picture. Jenna leaves the prom while Matty is with Sadie, and he thanks her for not letting him call it a night. It would have been a mistake to let prom go by without telling Jenna what she means to him, and Sadie says you're welcome, and my biggest complaint with the episode was what happened with Matty. I just found it very formulaic. I really did. I really loved the way it was written. I thought the editing was really good here. It was just kind of formulaic, and I'll get into that. This is not formulaic yet. Sadie says you're welcome. Of course, she asks if he wants his booze back for courage. He says he wants to be sober when he tells her he loves her, and she says she wants to be far away from it and says she'll find him later. Val in this episode was probably the best part of this episode. I mean, Val giving them all them strict rules and telling them to behave like seniors was just great. I mean, that's totally something she would do. She talks about there's no BJs in the bathroom, no dirty dancing, no touching tons on the dance floor, and no contact beneath the waist. And most importantly, no one is allowed to get topless. And if they will, they are banned from walking at graduation, which I thought was definitely very funny. So Lissa and Theo dance while Jake and Gabby's friend continue to hit it off. Adam says he likes not being engaged anymore because he doesn't want to have to be as respectful, but in a hot way. And Tamara says that he's been holding back all this time, and what he really wanted to do was rip off her clothes and treat her like a cheap whore. She tells him that she loves that, and she says since they're not saving themselves for marriage. Now, this was a line where I'm like, what? Does Tamara not remember that not 2 seasons ago she lost her virginity to Jake? Does she not remember this? Now, I don't know if she was saying just in general, I'm not going to have sex with anyone until, we are married, but the way she said saving ourselves for marriage, that means to save your virginity until you are married. I don't think Tamara knows what that means, and I kind of feel like the writers, which is understandable because these are new writers, don't remember that Tamara lost her virginity to Jake. It was not brought up once in this episode, and I was really upset about that because, this was not the first time Tamara's had sex, and they act in this episode like it is, and I was quite upset about that, I have to say. I mean, they had all this build-up to Jake and Tamara having sex in that episode, and then they completely just drop it in this episode like it never happened. And I'm not upset that they didn't I'm not upset that I'm not upset, of course, that the new writers are there. I'm upset that they didn't bring it up once. I mean, you would have thought they brought it up once, but no, they didn't. And maybe it's because Tamara's trying to move on from that. But again, the way she talks in this episode, she makes it seem like she's never had sex when she has, and I was quite upset about that. So basically, we then see that she said basically he asks her if she wants to have sex right now. So Matty apologizes to Jake for leaving, and Jake says he didn't notice. He didn't notice, and he asks if they've seen Jenna. This is the problem I have here. Every single scene with Matty in this episode, before he finally meets up with Jenna, is just, have you seen Jenna? Have you seen Jenna? Have you seen Jenna? Very formulaic, not that interesting. It really was not that interesting. I mean, anytime Matty came into a scene, I was like, oh, he's just going to ask if they've seen Jenna. It wasn't that interesting, and I think they could have made it a lot more interesting than it was. Jake says he saw her a minute ago and asked if everything's okay. He says it will be if he can find her. And as Matty leaves, Gabby is really upset at her friend for dancing with Jake, and it's her loss, honestly. It's her loss. She was a bitch to Jake. She was being really rude to him, and she deserves it. I'm sorry. She really does. So Lacy asks Jenna what she's doing back home and if prom is over. She sees the burnt dress and is shocked. She asks what happened. Jenna tells her how it went. Lacy asks she won queen. She says she left before they announced it. She asks why, and Jenna tells her it's not that big of a deal. And this was probably my favorite scene in the episode. I always love scenes between Lacy and Jenna, and for me, at least, this was probably my favorite scene. Lacy asks what she would have done to be nominated. She can't believe Jenna left early. Jenna says she's sorry if her leaving early hurts her because she can't, but she couldn't stay longer. Her first dress got ruined. Her second dress caught on fire, and Adam came as a surprise to Tamara. Her dream came true, and she's happy for her, but couldn't stay without a date and a burnt dress just so that she could live out some vicarious fantasy of a prom that she didn't have. And that really is true. The only reason Lacy wanted to go with this prom is because this was something that Lacy could never do. And she didn't want the same thing for Jenna. And she felt like she would be a better mother if Jenna went to this prom. And I definitely agree with Jenna that Lacy needs to understand why she left. And I definitely like seeing that. She tells her, I'm not going back. I'm going to bed. And I definitely really love that scene. I really like the way the writers have been writing this season between Lacy and Jenna. You know, Lacy has been a really good parent, but Jenna's starting to realize that some things Lacy has done has been just for her, and I really do agree with that. I mean, as good as a parent as Lacy is, she does make some mistakes sometimes, and I definitely like that. She's not a perfect parent. I mean, she definitely is. I mean, letting your kid have alcohol in general is a problem, but Lacy is happy. Sadie came back, and Lacy's happy. Sadie came back. She says she knew she wouldn't abandon her at prom. Sadie says she's about 5 drinks away from seeing it as a dream, and she gets her punch. Theo tries to get her to drink and says the only way he lasts through prom is to be drunk, and Cole and his date tell them they have room for partying. Sadie says she doesn't hate that idea, and Sadie was a bit underused in this episode. I mean, this is what you do with her. You have this whole thing with her just being happy, and this is what they do. I was a bit upset that they did this with her. I mean, she had some really great scenes with Matty. I was thinking that maybe she would help out Matty a bit. I didn't really know, but no, she just kind of is just in this episode. You know, she didn't really seem like she needed to be in it until the ending. The ending was definitely really great. Matty asks Lissa if she's seen Jenna, and she tells him that she saw the back of her when she left. She says prom court will be uneven now, and it's really uncool. And again, very formulaic. Lacy comes in to talk to Jenna, and she tells her that she's done with tonight, and Lacy says to hear her out and says she's been hearing what she said, and she's not wrong about her projecting some of her stuff onto her in the past, but that is not what this is about. She wants her to go back for her. She doesn't want to go back for Lacy. She wants her to go back in general because she knows that Jenna will regret the fact that she didn't stay. And she says think about how far she's come, and she says to think about how pissed sophomore Jenna would be at senior Jenna. She was just nominated for prom queen. She says she knew she wouldn't win, and Lacy says so her night wasn't perfect, but if she sits around waiting for everything to be perfect, life is going to pass her by while she's eating ice cream in bed. And I really do agree with Lacy. Jenna needs to suck it up and just go to this prom because she's never going to have one again. I mean, you don't have moments like this again. They always say, they tell me this all the time in like my high school, you're never going to have moments like this again. Particularly in like chorale and things like that, but just in general, they always say to me that you'll never have moments like this again. It really is true. I mean, I'm sure colleges do stuff like this, but they don't do what high schools do. And, you know, it's just good to go to things like this, and I definitely do agree. So Jenna says she already washed her face. Lacy says slap on some blush. She says her dress is ruined and she can't go and that she doesn't look like a prom queen. And Lacy tells her the dress was jacked to begin with, and she tells her she doesn't think she was nominated because of her looks. She thinks it's because of how she is. all those people like her enough to vote for her, and who is she to insult them for not being there? And she decides to go back, and I definitely really love that, and I thought that was definitely really well done. I definitely like the scene between Jenna and Lacy. Definitely my favorite scene of the episode. So, Lacy then gets ice cream on her dress. Jenna says it doesn't matter. She has in a different dress. And Liz is happy to see her back. But she's in a sundress. And I think it was because most people weren't doing the floor length thing anyway. So Jenna asks why everyone is not dancing. Liz says that Val's ruining the night. And Will tells Val that he knows her heart's in the right place, but it's their senior prom, so let them have a little fun. She says this is her last chance to mold them. And I really like this scene because I've said all season that Val, I think, is kind of upset that she's not going to be able to do this thing anymore. She's always been tied to this class in general. As much as she's, been the guidance counselor, it's been this specific class that she's always talked to and kind of always been there for. And they're not going to be there, and she really doesn't know what to do, and I like that. And basically I like seeing Will tell her, they should have some fun too, and she agrees. I don't know what's going to happen between Will and Val after this, but I think it's good the way they're setting that up. So Jenna asks Lissa if she missed prom court. She says they haven't since one is there, and asks where everyone is. They are all in the party suites, and Gabby slaps her friend for dancing with Jake sexually. That was very funny. Tamara and Adam make out. She says it's not a private room, but it's free, and no one is paying attention to them. She can't believe they're going to have sex for the first time on prom night. And, okay, that scene didn't sound like, I will say this. That scene did not sound like it was, something that, hang on one second, guys. That scene didn't seem like it was, the first time that Tamara and Adam, that Tamara had sex. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like Shane's this first time we're gonna have sex. It just seemed like they never brought up Jake once. She should have just told Adam, this is not my first time, because Adam was acting like it was her first time, and she was acting like it was her first time. It was really pissing me off. I have to tell you guys, I'm not gonna lie, it almost ruined the episode for me. Not that I don't love Tamara. You guys know Tamara is most times my favorite part of this show, and is most times my favorite character, but this just really was annoying me. The fact that they weren't acknowledging that she's already had sex was very annoying. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. I mean, it was a huge deal for Tamara when she had sex with Jake, and they haven't mentioned it once, and I was kind of annoyed they didn't do that. So Adam says they can't have sex in there. She says there's a bathroom, which they knock on, and Matty goes to Jenna's house, and this was the one scene with Matty that I loved. This was the only time where it's not like, have you seen Jenna? This was really great. Kevin answers the door, asks if he always comes to this door, not the front one, because he does. He always comes to Jenna's door. Matty says the first time, and he asks if she's there. Kevin says she was, and then she left and went back to the prom, and he starts to talk to Matty about his prom, tells him to stay, and I love the scene where he's reminiscing about their prom. So Theo and Cole get Sadie an apple vodka, which she does not like. She's disgusted by them, and Theo apologizes to Cole for not wanting to go to prom. Liz is upset by how many people have left. Sadie blames it on Jenna because anytime one of her friends are upset, it's usually her fault. I found that funny, definitely. Although I am hoping that we do get at least a nice scene between Sadie and Jenna before they graduate. It'd just be a nice thing to do. Sadie has matured. I know she will always detest Jenna and always will hate her, but, I just want a scene next week where it's like, I don't, I know I know that I was a bitch to you and everything. I know I did some really bad things, but I hope you have a good life. I just want something like that, that wouldn't be out of character for Sadie. Sadie is a nice person. Sadie's not a bad person, Sergio told her that she had some good in her heart, and I think Sergio has helped her with that. And I hope that we get a scene between Sergio and Sadie next week as well. It does seem like I do think we're going to get some between them next week. But basically, we then see Matty tells him he has to go back to prom. Basically, then we see Kevin continues reminiscing about prom. Matty tells him he has to go back to prom since he's trying to get one dance with Jenna before the whole thing's over. Kevin says to go get the girl, and they all return, and I like how supportive Kevin was. I definitely love that. They all return to prom. Liz is upset, and Theo apologizes for leaving her alone. Tells her she put together the most original prom anyone will ever see, and he loves her for it. Everyone congratulates Liz on the punch, but it's actually because it's been Spike, which I thought was definitely very funny. Someone always spikes a punch at a prom. That's just something that always happens. I mean, it's inevitable. It's always going to happen. So Matty asks Kyle if he's seen Jenna, and he says in every dream, and that was really funny. He's like, I've seen her in every dream. We know he's obsessed with Jenna. We've known this from the beginning. If you remember, the way Kyle was introduced was as Jenna's stalker, so I love the way they're sticking with that. He says she's most likely in the party room, but he shouldn't go there since they're about to announce the winners for prom king and queen. And he tells Matty he's wing for king. Matty congratulates him. He will be back for his big moment. really have liked the friendship that Matty and Kyle have had. I mean, it's very different than Matty and Jake, and I really do like it. You know, who would have thought that Matty and Kyle would have been best friends? But I honestly really do like it, I have to say. And I hope they continue it into the second half of the season. It's nice to see Matty not be friends with just a popular crowd. You know, he's friends with people that aren't as popular, and I like that because, you know, there was a point where he wasn't popular, and I like that we're still seeing that. So Jenna comes out of the Oliveras. Maddie goes into it, which was very cheesy, I have to say. This whole thing where Maggie went into the elevator, Jenna came out, I'm like, that is so cheesy. She heads back to the prom. He goes to the party room as Tamara and Adam come out of the bathroom after having sex. Maddie again asks if they've seen Jenna, and Tamara says she left. Maddie says she came back. She says she hasn't seen anyone in 45 minutes. I mean, that was really funny. Jake and Gabby dance, and he tells her that she slapped Vanessa pretty hard. She says that's called a bitch slap. Jake asks which one's the bitch. Jake asks if she's sure she's not embarrassed to be dancing with him right now, and she says she shouldn't have said that. Him taking gap year was embarrassing, but he got her back. It was not fun watching her friends all over him like a human jungle gym, and she tells him girls are weird, and he says, including her, she was only upset when she saw Vanessa dancing with him, which he's okay with. By the way, her friend's name is Vanessa. Good for them to tell us that finally. We haven't gotten a name since now, so she says a big part of why she freaked out about the gap year thing is because she doesn't know what they're doing next year, and she doesn't really want a boyfriend while she's at Stanford. And he says he didn't want to be the one to break it off, but he didn't know how it was going to work out either. And she asked if they should even go their separate ways. He said this is the calmest breakup he's ever been a part of, and I like that. I like they're having a calm breakup, but this should have been 2 episodes ago, okay? They should have done this 2 episodes ago, because it's not that I don't care about this, it's just, I feel that this was horribly handled, honestly. I wish they would have done it differently, where Jake wouldn't have all these girls all over him. I get that that was funny, obviously, and it was cool to see, but, I would have wanted to see, this 2 episodes ago, definitely. I think they could have handled it a bit better. So Will and Val dance sexually. They call her out since she's been doing it to them all night, which that scene was great. Lissa says it's time to crown the prom king and queen, and all of nominees come to the stage. Val gets everyone's attention, and Sadie, sees the, bottles on the ground, and she tries to throw them away just to cover it up because she doesn't want to get them in trouble. And Principal Cox unfortunately spots her, calls her out for it, asks if she's been drinking. She says she didn't know the punch was Spike, and he looks at the purse, and unfortunately there's the flask that Maddie gave her. He tells her that she's not walking at graduation, and she says she's valedictorian, she's giving a speech, and he says not now, she's not now. And this would have been a lot more unpredictable if they had not put it in the plot synopsis for episode 11, because I already looked at the plot synopsis for the last episode, and that was like the main thing. So if they had not put this in the plot synopsis, it would have been unpredictable, but unfortunately they did. So this wasn't that unpredictable for me. It is a good twist, though, but we know that she's going to walk at graduation because we saw her give that speech in the promo, and that's going to happen. So Val announces that it's time to crown the winners, and she announced the prom king, who's some random girl named Heather Lee that we've never met. I mean, that was weird. I wish Tamara would have been nominated because it would have been nice to see someone who we did know other than Jenna get nominated and, win. I would have liked that, and I think that would have been well done. I'm trying to think of someone that should have been nominated that wasn't. I'm trying to think of some girl, but I can't really think of any right now offhand. But, if they would have had other characters on the show, I mean, I would have liked it if, because Jenna obviously does not win, but this random girl, Heather Lee, winning that we don't know who she is at all or why she's there, I didn't like it. I really did not think I didn't like that at all, honestly. I don't like that it's just someone random. It's funny when they're nominated, but just having this random girl win, what the hell are you doing? Like, come on, give me some character that we don't know, that we know, that we care for, that Jenna has had a bond to. Give me, like, Tamara, give me, like, Lissa even. Give me someone that is not Jenna. I would have been fine with that we know, not this random girl. I mean, I was kind of annoyed by that. However, the king is Kyle. He does give a quick speech, and Maddie's there to support him, which Val says is too much. Jenna says she doesn't care that she's queen. Now, this was why I was upset, because she gives this whole speech how she's queen, she was glad to be there, and I wish we would have actually cared. I didn't care that Jenna didn't win queen, because I don't give a shit who the girl is that won. I don't know anything about her. So, Jenna says she doesn't care if she's queen. Maddie asks to cut, and basically, while she's dancing with this guy, Maddie asks to cut in her dance. He tells her he knows a lot has happened between them. They both have made mistakes. He's messed up once, and he can tell she's over it. but he loves her. He just does. It's not something he can decide or do or not. He always will. He always has and will, and he couldn't let the prom go by without telling her. Jenna says the most romantic moment any girl had at prom, but he was right that they had both had each other so many times it was just too late. Now, if this how the episode would have ended, I would have really liked that, because I've told you guys this before. It's not that I don't like Jen and Matty, I just don't think these two are compatible anymore. I really don't. They're going in such different directions, and that's the thing that the big reveal did so well. That's the thing that episode, that's why I love the big reveal so much, because it showed how different of directions these two are going, and why they shouldn't, why they can't be together anymore. They can be friends, but they just can't be together, and just having them together now in this felt very random, and it just felt like, no shit that they're back together. No shit. Everyone knew it was coming, and I was really hoping that they wouldn't do that, because it would be more unpredictable, and they unfortunately went with the predictable route. Because that Jenna obviously tells him that she loves him back, and she's just had to say it. They kiss, we see everyone enjoying the prom. Sadie cries in the bathroom. I really felt bad for her. Gets into the taxi. Jenna says in the end she didn't get her dream prom, but the reality was so much better. And that's basically the end of the episode. I didn't hate this episode. I really didn't. I don't want you guys to think I hate this episode. I was just disappointed by it. I really was. I found it very formulaic. I found it very predictable, and honestly not that interesting. I found this episode kind of boring, actually. Mainly because it was just Matty going around to people saying, have you seen Jenna? Have you seen Jenna? That was the bulk of the episode. The other stuff going on was good, but it just wasn't as interesting. Tamara and Adam having sex, I didn't find that interesting. If Tamara and Adam would have discussed their future plans, that could have been more interesting. But them just having sex and them going on a whole thing about it, I didn't really care about, because, again, we know that Tamara's had sex before with Jake, and they did not once mention. I was kind of upset that they did not mention that. Jake and Gabby, I'm happy they decided to break things off. I mean, they should have broke things off 2 episodes ago. I thought they did, but apparently they didn't. Whatever, that's what you want to do, show, go ahead, but that's really stupid that now you're deciding to break things off between them. I think it's really stupid that they did that. Matty and Jenna, it looks like next week Matty's going to propose to Jenna. I mean, just out of nowhere. It's Boy Meets World much? Hello? Boy Meets World did this, and we know how that turned out, so, I mean, yeah, they got together, but we know that they didn't get married then, so I don't know how they're gonna do this, but, I like what they're doing with Sadie. Sadie, we know, is obviously going to try to walk a graduation. It does look like next week they're going to try to help her out. And hopefully this does get Sadie and Jen to have at least one nice moment together. I just want them to have one nice moment of reconciliation. Just Sadie simply saying, I'm sorry for all the shit I put you through, and apologize, and then be done with it. That's all I really want. That's all I want here. Tamara and Adam, I think that they're going to move in together. I mean, they seem to have that bond, and again, it seems like Tamara needs someone like Adam, and I think they're probably going to move in together. And then as far as Val goes, is she and Will, are they really going to get married? I mean, obviously, she said that they were engaged and that she wants to marry him, but we have yet to see any of that, so who knows they're going to get married. We'll have to see. Overall, guys, this was a good episode. It wasn't a great episode. I definitely think that we've had a lot better episodes this season. This episode was a bit disappointing for me, but let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I thought this episode was good for the most part. Definitely not as good as it could have been. I think this episode could have been a lot better, definitely. But I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of The Flash, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.